guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video idea I had because I saw it either on TikTok or Instagram. With my job, I scroll social media a lot, mostly to look at trends or ideas for the authors I work for to post ideas of their own. Specifically on TikTok, I know, looking for ideas for an author I work for to film because she was going to film that weekend, and I came across this, and when I see things I want to do, I just jot notes down, and I made a whole Instagram post, and I was like, this would make the perfect video idea. So I am here to chat about 15 books that perfectly define my taste in books. I think this is a really helpful video, especially for you if you're watching, to see if I have recommendations that you think you would like. So if you love any of these books, then I think we would have a very similar taste, and so I would love to know first of all, what books you think will show up on this list if you do watch my channel, and second of all, what books you think perfectly define your taste. There are very specific things I am so obsessed with in books, and when it happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with this romance. All of them are romance books, by the way. If you don't know, I read a romance. If it doesn't have a romance, I'm not going to be interested. So I have 15 books. I'm going to go in order I did them on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, it's always linked down below. So I will start off with a list of things I concluded that I love. We have All the Angst. I'm an angst reader through and through. I've been an angsty reader for as long as I can remember. I love when there's pain, and there are certain tropes that go with this pain. So Second Chance 100% leads into that pain. I have so many second chance romances actually on this list. It is ridiculous, and I love it. Right person, wrong time as well, especially if it's second chance. Like, I love when they fall in love with someone, and that goes into the next one, which is forbidden. When they're off limits and it's just like the worst possible time for them to fall in love. I especially love it when it's messy and it's like a best friend's boyfriend or like a sibling's boyfriend or girlfriend, and I'm just like, but you know you're supposed to be together. So love those. Time jumps in a romance as well. It also lends into the second chance romance. I love it when there's like 6 months, 5 years like later, and you're like, what the heck? And then they get together. So good. Makes me cry, which is super rare. I think only 2 of these on this list, 3 or 4. 4 of these made me cry, and I never cry in books. So, and then romantic suspense, and which is just like self-explanatory. I love it, which goes into the next one, which is an engaging plot that's as engaging as the characters. I'm not a character-driven person, and if I hate the characters, I'm not a plot-driven person. I need an equal balance of a very engaging plot and very engaging characters and romance. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the books that I think perfectly encapsulate this. So, the first one's an author I discovered, I think like a year and a half or 2 years ago, and I literally read her entire backlist and will not shut up about her, and she's one of my favorite people. I just am obsessed with her books, and it's because, first of all, she's a romantic suspense author, and that's when I learned that's like one of my favorite genres. I've always loved like action movies and action adventure. I grew up on 80s action movies. Like, I love all of those. I love Top Gun. The Mummy's one of my favorite movies of all time, and just any Arnold movie I loved. Like, I just watched all of those, and Die Hard's one of my favorite Christmas movies, so I love action. And so I don't know why I never ended up reading a lot of those books until really far into my romance journey, and I love it when there's a good suspense. And I love true crime documentaries too, so if there's a serial killer involved, sign me up. If there's a cult involved, sign me up. So we have, if you did not know, Catherine Cowles. We have Ashes of You, which is her newest one, which I love because she always has suspense in her books, but this one has to do with a serial killer. Prologue jumps into our heroine escaping a serial killer, and the hero of the book is actually the one who helped find her after she escaped, and they don't see each other again for quite a few years, and now it's like 5 years later, I think, maybe 3. I don't remember. It's a few years later, and she shows up in town to apply for his nanny position because he's a single dad of 3 kids. And so it's very forbidden. There's an age gap. It's 13 years, and they're also trying to figure out who the serial killer is because women start showing up dead following the same pattern that the guy who kidnapped her followed. And so I was so engaged in this story, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with everything Catherine writes. Her Wrecked series, Reckless Refuge, is also about a serial killer that was so twisty and so good. So I'm obsessed. Literally, I will talk about her all the time. and I love her. Okay, so another author that I'm obsessed with, that she is just like an amazing human being too, and her books are so good. This one specifically I was obsessed with, and I think she's just getting better and better because I loved her last release too, and that is After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. This ended up sneaking in to be one of my favorite books of the year last year because of the angst. It's a second chance romance, and he's a single dad, and I didn't put single parent on here because single parent can be very hit or miss because the kids, when they're used as plot devices, I don't like them, but when they're really unique, like this one had really unique kids too. It's really fun when they have their own personality, they're their own characters in the book. In this one, our hero and heroine, this is also right person, wrong time. They were madly in love in high school, but the trajectory of their lives, they're like, we just can't be together. And so they broke up. He immediately got someone pregnant, and the mom's out of the picture, so he's a single dad. She immediately got married, and she got married to not that great of a guy, so she is literally in the process of divorce, comes back to their small town, and I do love a small town romance. There's just something so cozy about them. I didn't used to love small town. I was very much like a dark mafia motorcycle, like that's all I was reading. Slowly drifted towards small town, and I'm just like fully in small town. I will say I'm like kind of moving past that phase now, so it doesn't necessarily, if it's small town, that doesn't mean it's gonna be a favorite, but the angst in this one, it's a second chance for them. He literally has a secret tattoo for her. I love that trope as well because it's just so angsty. They're like so in love with you that they got a tattoo for you and didn't think they'd ever be able to have you. So it was so good. Like, read Laura if you haven't yet. Okay, so the next one has time jump in it, and I love this. This is also right person, wrong time, where they go their entire lives just like missing each other, and the suspense in this one too. That is The Kingmaker Duet by Kennedy Ryan. Really both books together, but I love Kennedy Ryan so much. She writes emotion so well in her books. I just like could have multiple books of hers on this list. This one though is they meet when she's too young, so she's like a teenager and he's like early 20s, I think. So it's just like a weird spot in their lives where they're like, nothing's gonna happen, but they meet and then they keep on meeting throughout the years and keep on meeting, and their lives are taking them different places, and then the cliffhanger at the end of this one, because of the suspense, is just like, I was dead. I need to reread this because I haven't read it since it came out, and it came out in 2019. It has been so long since this book came out. I need to reread. It's amazing. Love it. Love Kennedy Ryan. She can do no wrong. Okay, and another one that is literally like no surprise. I talked about this all the time last year when I read it. I have two books with the title of this book, and that is Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I was shocked when I read this. This one was an audiobook read. Teddy Hamilton was one of the narrators, and The Pining, The Secret Tattoos, it's a second chance. We get flashbacks. I also really love flashbacks when they're done really well. We get flashbacks when they started dating, when she's a wedding planner and he is a wedding florist. And so she is working under this like really dominating wedding planner, and she's trying to make a name for herself, and they're working together and they start hooking up, and like he is just such a genuinely kind person that just like falls so madly in love with her, and he's just like follows her around, and he just like wants to make her happy, but she has a lot of things that have her not trusting relationship. And so they break up, and it's devastating. Now it's years later, time jump, and she is working a wedding on her own now, and they insist he is the florist. So they have to work together, and it is so good. And I like the wedding aspect. It very much reminds me of like Wedding Planner vibes, which is one of my favorite movies, and it's just so good. It is so good and so angsty, and he has tattoos, and he has a tattoo for her. Like, come on. Literally just obsessed. Okay, so the next one made me cry. First book of the bunch that made me cry. And this one is also a second chance romance, and this one had such heartbreaking content. Like, definitely No Going In has a lot to do with suicide, and that was really hard for me to read. I have people in my life who I know are affected by that, and it just makes me very emotional thinking about that with the people who are in my life. And so that is Saint by Sierra Simone. This one is a very heavy book, and I feel like this series in general is so much more than what people make it out to be. They're like, oh, it's a like taboo priest romances, because all of them are. The first one's about a priest, the second one's about a nun in training, and this one's about a monk, and they're very sexual. Like, there's a lot of spice in them, but this one's a second chance romance between our hero and someone he was madly in love with, and it's an MM romance, and something happened and they're torn apart, they break up. And the one hero, who is the monk, he is so lost in life. He decides to become a monk because he finds really a lot of peace in that, and he ends up brewing beer. And the other hero is a journalist, and he is coming to write a piece on them, and they have to really confront all the things that had happened. Cried a lot in this book. It is so emotional, so touching, and I loved it. And it's one of my favorite books, and I think that books I can connect with definitely hit me harder. So this one I definitely did. Then I have one of my all-time favorite authors, Gianna Darling. Ancient Lies is my favorite in this series, and it's because it's definitely very angsty. It has this like unrequited love, because I think that even the dedication is like, to everyone who has known the exquisite agony of unrequited love. So our heroine is in love with her brother's best friend. I cried in this book too because of the brother. There's like a really, really intense storyline with him, but I think they lost their parents when they were young and had to move in with Nova's family who lived next door, and so she has been in love with him, and he is just this playboy. They call him Nova because it's Casanova, and he's in a motorcycle club, and she gets tattooed by him, and it's just so lyrical. The writing in here too is so beautiful, and I just get so immersed in this story, and it's definitely unrequited love, and it's very emotional, and Nova finally admits that he loves her too, and it's just amazing. I love it, and I love a good motorcycle romance. Like in this series, these books, there's a lot of romantic suspense too, which is what I think I love them as well. Then we have one I don't own, which I'm hopefully going to, and that is Manacled by Sen-Lin Yu. This book utterly destroyed me, and I loved it. Like, I love the experience of being absolutely destroyed by romance, and like I was literally sobbing. Like, I vlogged the experience. You can see my vlog on my YouTube channel, and I'm really happy that I did, because this is a Harry Potter fan fiction. It's Hermione, so it's Draco and Hermione, and it is so heartbreaking. There is such an intense love in this book, and I love books with like intense, soul-crushing, desperate love. Like, I am obsessed with that, and that's what this had. And then the end, I like lost it, and the next morning at breakfast I was crying, like thinking about this book, because of how unfair things are, because of just like the lives of these characters. It is amazing, and like this book is definitely getting so much hype now, and so many people are reading it, and it did get picked up by a publisher. They're going to change a lot about it, but I'm excited to see what's going to be changed, because it was amazing. And like I said, I like soul crushing, like change my world romances, and this definitely, I felt like I couldn't read anything for the next 2 months that lived up to this. Like, nothing was good. It was amazing. So the other one that I figured you guys would know is on this list is Forget Me Not by Kiwi Tyler. This is the book that made me fall in love with Kiwi Tyler. I have tabbed and highlighted this book too. This one's a very angsty romance. It's second chance because he cheated on his wife, and they are working it out because he gets into an accident and has amnesia, and he wakes up and he's like, oh, that's another favorite trope of mine. Why did I not think of that? Amnesia's my favorite. So he wakes up and he's like, why don't you like pay attention to me? Like, why aren't you coming towards me? Why are you acting weird? And she's like, we literally are gonna get divorced like in a week. And he's like devastated. So I love a devastated love. I love the hero trying to do everything for the heroine. That's what this book is. So good. I need more books like this too. Like, I do love a good marriage in crisis too, and this one did that. We do have a couple historical romances. So the first one is going to be The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. I love heroes like Ian. He is just so... He falls so hard in love, but he's also so serious, and he has overcome so much because he's a very damaged hero. I love damaged heroes. He went through a lot. Ian is actually on the spectrum, and in this time period, people did horrible things to anybody who was not quote-unquote normal, and so he did have to go into an insane asylum, and that really affected him because they also did it because of selfish reasons. Like, it wasn't because they actually thought like he needed help and he was like harmful or whatever. Like, they used it as an excuse to put him away, and he is now an adult, and he sees Beth and is just like taken. I think that was her name. I haven't read this in a long time, but I absolutely loved it, and I think that Ian is just a hero that I love in my romance novels. I also have a few fantasy romances on this list. So we have Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. I love this book. I love really strong friendships in books as well, and I think that this one has one of the best friendships I've ever read. And it breaks my heart every book in this series that we get to see that friendship, and it makes me cry every single time. This book had me sobbing. Like, when I tell you, I can probably count on the number of books on one hand that have made me sob, and it is this one. It is Manacled. I think The Nightingale, I was sobbing when I read that one. So sad. Was it The Nightingale? I think it was either The Nightingale or All the Light We Cannot See. It was one of those two. And then also A Thousand Boy Kisses. So I very rarely sobbed so hard in this book. Normally I like tear up. I couldn't breathe. This book is just so good, and the romance is so good because I love Hunt so much. He's also a very damaged hero that's gone through a lot, and he is just very hard to open up to and to open up himself, and I loved it so much. And like so much action in these books. I love the series. This one for sure is just definitely a lot of my taste and a fantasy. I mean, I love the ACOTAR series so much, and I just haven't read that recently. This one I reread again this year, so, or was it December? I reread recently. I read it 3 times, and I don't reread a lot, so good. The next 2 are actually books that I read this year, which is saying something because that's only been 2 months. So we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book, I love how much action in here. I love a heroine who just can hold her own. I love very strong heroines, and that's across the board, like especially in my historical romances too. They have to have a backbone, they have to be capable. She's so capable, and I love the romance. The hero in this one is supposed to be this like big brooding bad guy, but the minute he falls for her, he will do anything to protect her, and that was this book. The ending had me crazy, and it's just like also where he's falling for her, but everything that he's been taught has been like against romance with someone like her, so he's like fighting it so hard, but he can't. Obsessed. Like, I love that in a romance. We have the next one that I read this year, The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I could have put multiple Elizabeth O'Rourke's books on here because she is such an angsty writer, and this one is right person, wrong time. Hardcore right person, wrong time. It's hate to love. It's forbidden. It's her ex's brother, and she's on family vacation with them, but they're at a point in their lives they fall so desperately in love. So desperately in love. I was literally up until like midnight reading this book, and I never stay up that late because I get tired very easily, and I'm very much not a night person. I fall asleep all the time reading, and I'm like, I need my sleep to function. I stayed up so late reading this because I was like, I have to know how it ends. I have to know what happens and how they actually find their HEA because I need them to be together. I am desperate for them to be together, and I love that when I read a book, so that happened in this one. Then the other historical is going to be The Duke and the Lady in Red. This one had me crying. This one, there's just so much depth to the characters and their relationships with other characters, and that's what I loved about it. And the hero is someone who does not let the heroine get away with things, and so she was actually trying to seduce him to, I think she was stealing from him, and he's like, no, we're gonna figure this out. And I'm just like, yes you are. Yes you are. I love you. But this was very sad. But Lorraine Heath is like my taste in an author for historical romance. I love everything she writes. Super angsty, very emotional, amazing. And then another one that I think a lot of people love, and my original copy was too far down, so I grabbed my special edition. That is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of this book. Yeah, everyone does a special edition of this. Okay, so first off, we've got a serial killer involved. Point 1, right? They get kidnapped, they hate each other, but guess what? It is her sister's boyfriend. Forbidden romance, point 2. And then it is a really right person, wrong time. They love each other so much, but they are both in such hard places. They were kidnapped together and forced to do unspeakable things together. This guy kidnaps people, makes them fall in love, and kills them in front of each other. Obviously they escape, but it is them trying to live life again. I definitely want to reread this too. It is so good. It's very graphic in the beginning, so just know that, but there's just a desperation to their love that I loved, and it just shows how much you grow with people and bond with them. It's just a romance that I've never read before, and I loved it, and Jennifer Hartman's a very emotional author, and I love most of what she writes, so no surprise, this is everything I love in a book. And the last one is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This one I literally like sat on the couch and read straight until I finished it, up until I had to leave for the airport, because I got home from work, I was like, I have to finish this book before I leave, read it, and then left, and I was obsessed. This book, I love the action and I love the romance. Like in a fantasy, if it has really good action and romance, I'm gonna be obsessed. And we have this kind of morally gray hero. We have this heroine who she literally does not have any powers, or like she's not supernatural, and she is competing against all these supernatural creatures, and he will do anything to protect her. They team up and she survives. And lots of secrets. I loved it. I feel like I really do need to reread this though in order to go into the next one. I still haven't gone into the next one, and I read this in the winter of 2022, so it's been quite a bit, but love this for sure. Those 3 fantasy are really what I love in a fantasy romance. And those are 15 books that describe my taste. Let me know what books then you think I would love. Is there anything I haven't read that you're like, based on this, like you are going to love that? Let me know, and let me know if you've read these and you love them and what your favorite things in books are. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.